Hey kids, today we're looking at Ceratopsians. So why this video, why this topic? I know normally I do one species or one idea, but I was at work and my friend Mike, a photographer named, I call him Killer Mike. His name is actually Museum Mike online, but Killer Mike because like the rapper, you know. But the idea is that he's such a great photographer that if you see his pictures, like you're to die for. The point is, we were there at work and he was mentioning the Ceratopsians and how she likes these horned dinosaurs. And I said, well, why? He goes, well, they have horns. That's really awesome. The way they look really different. So I thought, what if I did a video on horned dinosaurs? Here we are. So first I want to point out with Ceratopsians is that they are one of the more popular groups, but also not very well known in that everyone knows Triceratops, people see Protoceratops, but the rest of the group aren't really well known until more recently. So I'll just tell you this way. So the name Ceratopsian means horn face. Very simple. The irony was the first dinosaur found with horns was Ceratosaurs, hence the name Ceratosaurus, horn, you know, like that, horn lizard. So when paleontology moved to North America, they found Triceratops and thought they were like giant bison. And the idea of a clearly different kind of animal. They have beaks and frills. So Ceratopsia was the name of the whole group, and there are several in their grouping. Now, that being said, there's a breakdown. So there's actually three major groups you can look at. The first group are just the general Ceratopsia, the earlier type, I think say earlier. They're not necessarily more primitive. The idea is they're less derived from the original ancestral form. Then there's, in the Neoceratopsia, there are two groups. There's the Chasmosaurines, named after Chasmosaurus, and the Centrosaurines, named after a picture not available. I don't have a Centrosaurus figure. They don't make them very much, really not at all. So the idea is that, generally speaking, the Centrosaurine will have a small horn or, you know, kind of like this is Dinosaurs, which means bison lizard, one of my favorite Centrosaurines. And the idea is that they have the horns on their frills and they have very small nose horns by comparison, whereas in general the Chasmosaurines have three horns. Triceratops being the most famous of the group. So let's start with the beginning. So the earliest Ceratopsian known as of right now, as of my last records, is a guy named Yinlong in China, mid-Jurassic, and there's no toy of him. But I have this little kind of simple figure, and it looks something like this. So imagine like Yinlong in the early Jurassic, because most Ceratopsians are Cretaceous, basically. So it's like the Abraham of Ceratopsia, of many, you know, father of many nation kind of thing. So the general Ceratopsia, the most popular one known is Protoceratops, discovered with Velociraptor by the American History Museum. These guys are really well known, having having no horns. The name Protoceratops means first horn face. The assumption was they were a lot older than they, you know. So another example, this is really well known, is Cetacosaurus. Now this guy, the genus Cetacosaurus means parrot lizard, with these huge beaks right here. And they have really cool thing, these little feathers here. And again, I will do individual videos on different species, but today's is the main group. So this is a bipedal form, it's on two legs. You can walk on four if it likes. But the idea is that these guys all have these small frills or no frill, but they have the basic parts, the beak, the rostrum basically. Another one is Koreasaurus. You'll never guess where he's from. Yes, the Korean Peninsula. But the idea is that they all have this simple form here. One that surprised me particularly was Leptoceratops, because my biology professor, Miss Penrod, hi Miss Penrod, in college, I was after class, she was like, hey, you know Michael sells dinosaur figures. And I was like, what? And I just I didn't leave before the class was over, but as soon as class was over, I went straight to Michael's and found Leptoceratops. And this guy was weird because this body plan you only find in Asia. And that's one thing to point out too, is that all of these guys, the Neoceratopes you're seeing here, are found in North America, whereas majority of these guys here are found in Asia. So you said, what's going on? The shortest answer I can give you is that late Cretaceous period, you've all seen the map of North America cut in half by an ocean, the Great Western Interior Seaway, an American name, and on this side is Laramide, here on this side is Appalachia. So throughout this whole region in the Campanian age, the second to last part of the Cretaceous period, there's a lot of Ceratopsians in there in this little inland sea. Whereas in Asia, we don't see that kind of inland ocean, so the Ceratopsians have a general form. The exception to this, I know there's one called Sinoceratops, which was featured in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Unfortunately, the figure for Sinoceratops is a Pachyrhinoceros. I mean, I went to the store so excited to get a Sinoceratops, and I saw it was a Pachyrhinoceros, and I'm pretty sure I saw a picture of the skull, so I checked and I was like, yeah, this is wrong. And this should be its own rant that they made the wrong species and they labeled it wrong. I mean, I've seen slightly differentiations of the skulls and different species mislabeled, but this is just ridiculous. I mean, other than, I don't want to do anything. Okay, so no ranting. So anyway, Cynoceratops is one of the few horn ceratopsians in Asia. The rest that you know are from North America. And the reason behind that is, as the ocean would rise and fall, what we're saying basically they would rise and it would separate populations. They would then interbreed and they would probably fall, and then they would mingle again. But then they were so different in appearance, they probably didn't associate them as the same species. And if you don't know about in biology, the simplest way of looking at a species is can they breed? So, for example, you can't get a cat dog, right? But you can get like a Chihuahuini kind of thing. So they are the same breeds in that case, but you can't take a donkey and a horse. You get a mule, but it's then infertile, or you get the idea of ligers. So the idea is that these ceratopsians may have been in one environment, several rows separating individual groups. They would have interbred in their own systems. When sea level would rise or would drop, they would probably be closely related, but then still not see each other as breeding worthy. So we start seeing this differentiation of species. It's a whole thing. I'm researching this right now. It's really exciting, but I have to stay on topic. So the idea is that Leptoceratops, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, it's an Asian ceratopsian. But then I looked it up and it's like, no, North America. But that was weird. So we're thinking it may have migrated across the Bering Strait a little later. But it's really its own story in itself. Then there's one called Serendipitous Ceratops. This guy was found in Australia, and that broke the rule books because ceratopsians are exclusively Northern Hemisphere. But to find a very, very simple one in Australia, at the time, the oldest one was found, everyone freaked out, and I bought the toy. But then, by the time it got to me from the mail, I was like, oh, actually, it's not quite considered. It's being debated right now. But if it is one, that will change the rule books. If it's not one, some different pod maybe. So stay tuned. But which is Centrosaurine, these guys here, the most famous one of all, I believe, is Styracosaurus from Canada. So this guy here basically is the most well-known, a bird of Canada in particular. And again, it shows you the bigger nose horn, the frills here. I can't wait to do a video on this guy because so many figures do the horns wrong. And it's a simple thing. But anyway, one of the older Centrosaurines is Diabloceratops, which I love the name Diabloceratops. It means devil horn face. And my first figure I got back there, it had red eyes. It was like, okay, that's a lot. The most famous guy from Jurassic World's Battle at Bighorn, Centroceratops. This actually was a gift from a student named Dash. I teach classes with my figures, and one of my first Centroceratops figure went missing, and my student Dash kindly got me another one. So thank you, Dash, forever. So anyway, so we have other examples like the Medusaceratops and the Xenoceratops. And then the Pachyrhinoceros group right here, we have Ionosaurus I mentioned earlier, which means bison lizard. Pachyrhinoceros, if you saw Walking with Dinosaurs, the one they were talking, Patchy, that's the same guy you're seeing here. Then in the actual Chasmosaurine group, we have Chasmosaurus, who's the namesake. The irony is the name Triceratops means three-horned face. They all have three horns, but it was the first one found, so the name stuck, But Chasmosaurine, you say, why this big frill? First of all, you don't want to fight your predator. You rather your predator just bag not from seeing you. It's like, the body plan post-cranial of all ceratopsians is, Neoceratopsian, is pretty similar, but the frill look is different. So the course of question is why, and the answer simply will be, not the answer, a answer would be that it's about species recognition. Think of a bison, not bison, a reindeer or a moose or an elk. These animals they're in the same grouping of deer-like animals, Cervidae, I think the family, but their antlers are different. Antlers, not horns, are different. So same thing can be seen here. Plus, why a big frill in the first place? Well, do you know Triceratops is a weirdo because it's a solid frill? These guys have a frame of bone here, and the idea is that this makes the animal look larger and it's more intimidating. I see many paintings and reconstructions of ceratopsians where they just look forward and their heads are huge. And if you're a predator, you're like, I don't know, want to go out. It's all head, but you don't know that at first reaction. Anyway, there's a guy, Cosmoceratops, which is just a really cool name. It's, Chastosaurus with his horns bent forward, the frill horns. Regaliaceratops, when I first saw this figure, and actual skeleton in an image. I thought, isn't that the Triceratops juvenile with the weird? But then I saw the actual skeleton. Oh, okay, I get it. Because they're both from Maastrichtian, the last bit. Mercuroceratops, particularly for me, was kind of annoying because they only found like these bones here. And the name Mercuroceratops comes from the Hermes in Greece, who was culturally appropriated by the Romans to become Mercury, and he had the wings on his sandals to move really quickly, like messenger of the gods. And these little fringes here reminded them, I think, of that. So that's the name, and here it is. But it attests to Ceratopsian body plans that only the head's really different. In that, if you have a different skull, you're like, I know what the rest looks like. Make a toy. Utah Ceratops, you'll never guess where he's from. But again, same body plan, same everything as a Centrosaurine. And again, these guys, it's really cool. They're actually, if you look at the different strata. So again, there's Mesozoic, Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Within the Cretaceous, you have early and late, or lower and upper. And there's all these little ages. So the very last bit of Cretaceous period is Maastrichtian. Before that's the Campanian. So if you were to, which I'm doing this now, if you were to like put these guys on this chart, you would see the changes in different ecologies. Another really famous Ceratopsian is Torosaurus, famously known from, I think, Jack Horner's research saying that it was the adult form of Triceratops. But of course, the frill is maybe bigger, but these have to scale, to me, for the most part. But the frill is bigger, but the body isn't, so kind of thing. But of course, it's Triceratops itself. And one thing to point out with Ceratopsians in general that toy makers get wrong, is that the toes, there are 3 toes with claws on the front, and the other 2 are like nubbins. There's no claw in them, so you would see like this. And this guy, what is this actually? I should mention that because this is awesomely accurate. That's why I picked this one. I have a lot of Triceratopses. I have a whole herd that you can't see back there. There's more of them. Which is ironic because they weren't in huge herds. It's Safari, of course, 2020, I believe. So the idea is that this guy has 4 toes in the back, and the inner toes kind of up a little bit. That's perfect. Many times I see Ceratopsian toys with 5 toes, and they're all clawed, and it's like, no, they don't have. That's not how it looks. Like, just go to a museum or Google the image or skeleton or something. Anyway, if you're making a toy, do it right. But this guy, they did it right. Safari, good job. Here we have the I bought this museum gift shop. This is a Pentaceratops 5-horn face. I have other figures of this animal, but I literally was at Dinosaur Park in Bastrop, and they know I buy figures. So even when I leave field trips there, they still like, no, I'm going to buy a lot of figures. So when I was leaving, this was on the counter. Like, there were 2 of them in a fighting pose, and I'd already picked out what I wanted. And I remember seeing it. I was like, did you put this here to trick me? Because it worked, but no. But then I bought it. Anyway, so fun animal because it's a huge frill. So again, it gives you the idea of that. You see the size of the figure, but look at the animal, and look at that. The frill, that'll be intimidating if you're a carnivore, or if you're a rival, or if you're a mate, it will be attractive. I don't know. But the idea is that this is one of those really well-known guys now. They're kind of on the rise. So that's what we're looking at Ceratopsians in general. Do know as a group, they were mainly late Cretaceous. The only early Cretaceous one would have been, well, not only, but one of the most well-known. It's a Categorizing. By early late Cretaceous, you start seeing these guys, but they really kind of congregate towards the end. And they're side by side with the Hadrosaurs, the dugwing dinosaurs, commonly known. So these guys are your top mammal. I mean, think of it in some ways that if you study mammals, you have Percerodactyls, which are the odd toes. That's your horse, tapir, rhino. They're like these guys. And then you have the Artiodactyls, which are even-toed ungulates, which is your cows and sheep and deer and pigs. Then the Hadrosaurs like those guys. The they're 2 different styles of lifestyle, herbivores in the same environment. But in general, know that towards the Maastrichtian, the Centrosaurine, this group here, replaced the Centrosaurine. So towards the very last bit, yes, we have Echinoceros, our special guy, for the most part, and they were further north, but these guys kind of replace. So, different feeding methods, different lifestyles. One thing to point out too is that some of them live in larger herds. Triceratops did not live in large herds, despite that, I don't know, being weird. So again, there's a lot more to talk about with Ceratopsians, but I'm going to call it a quits today right now because I don't want to spend the next 2 hours talking about this and then the battery will die. We'll have to edit. Thank you.